that's kind of what those dances do. They bring up a lot of chaos to help us understand that we can be further in ourselves and remember ourselves, and have a dance with that. Hi, everybody. Hi, Anya. How are you doing today?
Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome. It's so lovely to be connected with you and connected with anybody that's watching this video. It's just super exciting.
So,
Awesome.
Anya, we kind of just decided to get together and do like a culmination of energies, what they're like, what they're shifting into, and really kind of help support how you guys can also work with this as well, and really
Yeah.
ground it into yourselves, integrate it into yourselves, and help in a big way.
Yeah, it feels the right time. It feels the right time to be sharing what we are kind of going through as a collective, how we can be combating it, and also how we can be reflecting and integrating that throughout the month as we're going through.
I'm gonna just be laughing at myself too, because words to me are just very confusing in some of these spaces. So you might find me catching myself and going, no, 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 that wasn't like simple. That even what I wasn't trying to say in human
Yep.
words. But we're gonna do our
Happens.
best to really break that down and allow you guys to understand that you're doing it with us, and we're equals here, and we want to help support that and support that within you to know that you're doing it as well.
Because it is something that, like you say, it's natural to all of us. We just haven't been given the human, like when we're taught to walk and we're taught to speak and we're taught to eat. And, obviously I have a tiny little 1-year-old who's learning all these human functional skills, but then we're not taught, okay, that's that barefoot on the grid, on the grass over there, that's illuminating the grid and then activating the land and also replenishing your energy. And so if we were taught these things as children, they wouldn't be like, oh, this woo-woo things that we have to learn. It's more so like a skill, a functional skill that we should have already learned, how to clear as energies, how to clear out space that doesn't feel right, how to set up an energetic boundary, how to translate vibration should be something just as breathing and existing and eating, drinking, learning how to ride a bike, all these great functional skills as a human. We have so many functional skills we could be doing as a human if we learn to consciously integrate that already existing knowledge within us.
And now we can break it down to the fact that it is that simple too. Like you could just go out and stand by a tree and put your hand on it, and that moves whatever is moving through your body and helps shift the collective. It really is simple. So I really want to put it out there that you guys are already doing a lot of work already, and I appreciate it,
100%.
because it's these simple, tiny little actions that you can do, and it doesn't have to be so big. It can be very broken down into tiny parts and pieces, and
Yeah.
really help you, yeah, and everybody else.
And that's the point. Like you guys are already doing it. And I think sometimes because there's people like me and Yuzi and Honey and other beautiful people in this industry that are talking about what they're doing, it looks like they're doing more. And sometimes there is more being done, don't get me wrong, because everyone has different roles. But what I'm saying is, it looks like there's more capability than there is for some people that may be watching these videos, because there's more understanding about it on a human level. There's more recognition of how we're doing it on a conscious level, and more speaking about it and kind of putting words to it, which make it seem sometimes like it has to be a certain way. Right. And I think that's what the paradigm that we're trying to break down between self, between others, as someone who kind of activates other people and helps them through remembrance. It's really important that when I'm kind of teaching, I don't want to teach a certain way, because everyone will be connecting to source and to higher energies and to your higher self in slightly different ways, in different translational ways. And so it's more about, I like to show the remembrance of the activations of how they can be physically doing it and how they can be experiencing it and feeling that activation within, so that you can kind of integrate that knowledge on a cellular level. And again, these words sound really fancy and big, and but really it's just about knowing, okay, this feeling is this vibration is this is what I can do about it, and this is how I get rid of it. And these are the words that we can use to acknowledge them, because everything needs human translation as we're in a human incarnation, you know.
Exactly.
But it's finding words that resonate with you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it so beautifully. This is about you guys embodying and empowering yourself to know yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why using words like teaching, because like I guess you could say I teach too, but I'm not in that space. I'm not
Such an awful word.
I'm not like a spiritual guru guidance person. Like literally, I am just like you, and I'm here
Mm-hmm.
for share.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
all this is. I'm here to work with you guys to make that shift into your highest and best, and also move that with the collective so that we all have a piece of that
yeah.
remembrance, of knowing who we are.
That was one of the things we really bonded on, because I do struggle with that. Like, I have that. I'm like, don't put me on a pedestal. Remember, I'm just a normal human doing my own thing in this spiritual incarnation that we're going through. And I experience up and downs. I experience blockages. I experience little humans acknowledging that as well. I experience times where I'm feeling, you know, on that whole emotional roller coaster, and where there's things that I would like to achieve in the physical world, or, you know, whatever's going on, that would be great to just instantly create. I'm not at a place at everything's in divine manifestation, instant access to everything, and everything's perfect and la da da, and I'm living in the 90 ascension. I'm not there yet, and I'm not in any shame to acknowledge that. You know, I'm like, listen, guys,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a really frustrating, challenging, emotional, difficult time to go through. And yeah,
It is.
fees
Yeah.
acknowledging that it can be a whole wild ride. It's not rainbows, sunshines, and everything's and I think that was a bit of a misconception of the ascension and the shift, that it was just all one day gonna like turn around and everything was gonna be
Right.
perfectly wonderful. And you know, yeah, there'll be a lot of less darkness and heaviness, which will seriously help the overall vibration. But yeah, I don't think that that means that it's all just going to miraculously go away overnight, because then what are we here for? Like,
Exactly.
you know, there's no point in
No,
that.
yeah. It's really kind of funny too and comical when you say that. And we're here for the human experience. And for me, I don't deny those roller coasters. They are very part of my existence that I highly appreciate, because
Yeah,
those are the lessons that I like to learn. Those are how I learn how to work with frequency and toning, tuning, the sound of the universe, and I will willingly go into those spaces so that I can work that piece. That's
yeah.
what I'm here to do. And so to say that, you know, we are any different from you because we're a little bit more aware of whatever it is that you think we might be aware of
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
we go through our stuff and we go
Yeah.
through it hardcore like everybody else does. We're not
Mm-hmm.
unlike anybody else here. I like the roller
Yeah.
coaster because it seriously allows me to make changes, allows
Yep.
me to be in creation. And that
Rapidly.
is creation.
Yes. Rapidly. And I think that's a massive key to this, though. Like, I don't think people realize that. I think that's a real golden nugget there. When you're going through this ascension, I remember being 15 years old in hospital, 26 tablets a day, 8, 9 times a year, constant in and out, all that stuff. And I remember just being like so confused as to why I was experiencing that. Same with the mental health, same with like why I felt so like depressed and anxiety, and like
Sure.
why was I feeling so wrong in my own existence and my own, like, you know, why was this experience so hard to be in? And once
Yes.
I understood, shit, this is for you to learn. This is for you to go deep and expand and layer off these shells and walls that you might have put up in this lifetime or many others. And once I kind of got that, it was like, all right, yeah, okay. Like, as much as I still experience the hospitalizations, I still had mental health and sometimes still have wobbly days of anxiety and whatever's going on and the vibes. You know, I never got to a place of pure Buddha level peace. I'm still not there, but I don't find it challenging like I used to. In the majority of the time, the perspective and the mindset affects the whole timeline that you're living in. And I've seen this with my other friend Madeline, who experiences chronic pain. You know, anyone with fibromyalgia or chronic pain conditions will understand this. Your perspective on how you live your daily life will change everything. And how you choose to perceive why you're going through what you're going through. And as awful as it is, not viewing it as, oh, why me and why this, because that's not going to alleviate anything. Sometimes you can have them little moments of, oh, why am I going through this? This is a bit shit. But then get it out and then go back to the focus of, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I gain from this? What can I expand from this? Who can I become after this because I've gone through this? And I think that's just really important to reflect on. It's not about avoiding the roller coaster, going back to what you said, the original golden nugget. It's not about avoiding the roller coaster. And I did that for a long time. I think I just tried to run away from it for so long with the panic attacks and the anxiety. It was like, fuck that. But now the swearing's come out already. Here we go. But then it became a sense of, you know, don't run from it, sit with it, ride the roller coaster and see where your end destination gets, because I guarantee it's going to be a more expanded version of you than I even got on the roller coaster in the first place if you ride out the wave. And it's a powerful perspective shift as we're going through this ascension.
The roller coaster is something that I like to be an embracement of and sit with, and in those spaces know, because I perceive it to be that way, that there's a greater me coming out of that. There's a more remembrance in me. There's a more remembering my power, who I am, connected to source or universe, however you want to perceive that as me. The perception
Yep.
is really important. And there's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings. That's the point of that. Feeling like, what
Exactly.
am I doing right now? This is
Exactly.
complete crap. Like, honestly, and being there and feeling that and embracing that, surrendering to that, and then just going. And also, what can I learn from this? Where can I stand in this? And what does that mean that I need for myself right now? Because maybe that's just a week off, and you just got to be, for
Yeah.
a minute. That's where, like, the right or wrong. I feel like the culmination of this month is about that piece. This, like, doing things right or wrong. There's a big breakdown that I felt myself with that. Like, and the fact is, in the universe, there is no right or wrong. It's just a lesson.
Yep.
So if you perceive it to be wrong, or if you feel it to be wrong, you can sit with that for a second. You could be in that, because I've certainly been in it. Like, I have definitely
Yep.
been there. Um, my past has brought in a lot of really deep lessons for me, coming out of a lot of ritualistic abuse and some of those spaces where it had to be a deep place of me sitting with that and going, so how do I use this for my empowerment? And it took me
Right.
a minute to
Right.
get there.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a minute. Yeah, it takes its time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay to be exactly where you're at with everything. Is another piece I want to bring in. Like, you're
Yep.
perfect exactly where you're at. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And wow, what a great way of explaining that experience, and also recognizing that if it does take time, that's okay. Like, we didn't come here to just be a perfectly ascended, crystalline, healed,
Yeah.
Buddhist level 13-dimensional being, because if we'd have chose to do that, we would have been in that incarnation. We
Right.
came here to also experience this muddy waters, this sticky ground. And I think a lot of us at some point have felt that, I've definitely felt, am I from here? But I think that kind of longing to go back somewhere, I never felt that as much, because I felt like, no, I feel like I need to be here right now where I am doing this, even though I didn't understand a lot of what I know now. And now it's so much easier, like you say, once you have once that minute comes and you get them realizations of, okay, because man, it's hard to look at self. I think that's one of the hardest things to break. Like, when you look at things that we've been through in our lifetimes, it's like it's easy to feel, it's not easy, but the first option usually as a human is to like look at, well, why did I have to experience that? And why did I have to, have this horrible negative things? And then when we realize actually we chose that, that takes a minute, I think. Like, that took me a minute. I was like, oh damn. Now I've been looking for the answer to why, all this. And then when it realized that energy is directed straight back at self, I was like, oh, like it was a real layer to work through and sit through of there is no one to blame on a human level. Yeah, there's shit we shouldn't do as humans, because like that's just being a good human being, and you just shouldn't do them things. 100%, like morally, ethically, all of that. But on a soul level, like we don't know what contract, what agreement, what choices, what higher vibrational things we chose to arrange and agree to. And that sounds really bad when you're in a human perspective, I'm aware. But sometimes when you shift into that, not this physical reality is not the real version of our experience or on the
Right.
overall, you can kind of see it on like I always say, the video game, the person holding the control and the person playing the character, you know,
Yep.
both are real and existing. But when we go back to being that person holding the player, the control, it's remembering that the choices they made in that game and not necessarily what defines them as a being. And I suppose that's what we're kind of understanding now on a deeper level, is them choices that people make in the experience, the choices that we make in this experience, and not always, you know, a reflective of their overall frequency. Sometimes they are, but also sometimes it was for us to learn, for us to teach, for us to reflect, and we don't always know the deeper meanings.
And we don't always need to know what the deeper meanings are
No.
either, you know? That's one thing that I appreciate you in saying, and this coming up, is our minds like to get caught up on what we think are going deeper in aspects like that. And I'm not saying not to look at self, but also be very compassionate, like of being where you're at. And you don't have to go deeper to know certain things, right? If that's going to cause stress on your nervous system or things like that, then you could just be like, okay, I don't know what the actual meaning of that is, and that's going to be okay with that. You know, I'm going to be
Yeah.
okay with that. Um,
Yeah.
I know for myself in those spaces where I've had a lot of emotional stuff come up, telling myself I chose that, I'm not there yet, you know?
Yeah.
And
No.
that's okay
Yeah.
too, because this is the process. So if you're like just in an emotional day and totally just want to like tear stuff apart, like, and don't get me wrong, I have those days. Being there is the best way to work through that process and allowing that its journey to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Once that's your body's feeling like, okay, like it's calming down, and now I can make a choice for myself. Okay, from a higher perspective, I did choose that. What can I learn from it? And it just takes
Yeah.
that amount of time to go through that process. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll run through it.
It's that shift from, oh my god, why has this happened, why am I in this, why has this happened today when I need to get there to work and I need to do this. And when we're in the human, it's like a punishment, it's like a burden to the soul, it's like, why are we going through this? And then it's like, oh, okay, step into the heart, step into the higher self, step into that higher perspective of looking and feeling like, okay, but what if that delay was for a higher reason, to protect, to, you know, be
Or
present for someone else, to spread your vibration somewhere else, you know, to have your energetic presence somewhere else, like to have, you know, oh, so many things, as you know, as you can experience. It's like you can get the gist. It can be the butterfly effect, the turning right, turning left. And
yes,
sometimes we have to just trust that where we are, what we're going through, what we're experiencing, even though sometimes it can be like, what the actual Jeff, it's still about going, do you know what, yeah, that really wasn't nice to experience. I don't go through really negative things and go, wow, I'm so grateful for that. In the moment I'm like, you
yep.
know, like what, and I'm going through it, and I
Uh,
allow that, I know, I'm consciously aware. Part of me is like, yeah, we're going to calm down after this, and we're going to reflect on it, and we're going to journal about it, and we're going to release it, and we're going to identify the root trauma here. And then that part's like really quiet over there, whilst my human is venting and letting out the frustrational energy. And then when it centers back in, I do all them things, you know, whatever it is I'm called to do. I don't do all of them things all at once. I might do one of them things. I might just get a bath. I might just get a bath, and in that bath I might be thinking about all the things I'm letting go of, and then when that water's running away, I'm rinsing it away with me. Like, it doesn't need to be like a level 3 diploma level spiritual woo woo, like that's kind of the myth that's been brought in the spiritual world at the moment, is that you have to have this Reiki certificate and this level of this. And I'm not saying they're not great, they're great, but You don't need any of
Absolutely.
that to just ascend, to just be, to just exist, you know, to be in your
Right.
heart, to be healing, to be releasing. And yeah, I think the techniques of shifting that perspective, like you were saying, Z, from the human, why is this going on, to the higher, everything has purpose, and just remembering that also both can coexist at the same time.
Exactly.
Then that's like a weird feeling to be in, but it's true.
Absolutely. And to even break that down a little bit further than that,
Mm.
it's okay to have both of them exist at the same time. As I feel like that's another misconception is like if I'm having a very angry day and like I'm off wanting to murder, whatever the case is, I'm in that really, really big intensity. Uh, that doesn't mean that you're not connected to your soul and you don't have that component there and that it doesn't get to hold you in that space because it is. I know
Yeah.
I've experienced this myself and with clients and in doing groups and things like that is like no, I'm really feeling like I want to swear and it's really horrific and I'm really pissed at this person. That means that I can't get to this level of ascension. That is not true,
Mm.
everybody. At
Yeah,
all.
it's not true. It's not true at all.
So yeah, giving yourself permission to know that they can both coexist and you're not anywhere less in your experience or in your ascension process if you're having just a real crappy day.
Yep. 'Cause I think that's a bit of a thing that I hung on to, like a bit of an imposter syndrome, that I can't be at this level of like helping others at this capacity. And then why am I still experiencing these things that I'm going through? And it was like, I kind of struggled with that a little bit because I felt capable to help these people as an external perspective as well, because I'm not experiencing it, I'm not going through it as a human. So it's really easy for me to shift into my higher perspective and take a look and then reflect back the information from their higher selves and their guides and stuff. Really easy for me to do. But then when I'm going through it, it's like, oh, it's a totally different thing to navigate because it adds in the human emotion that comes with being in the human incarnation. And I think this has just been so forgotten about in the ascensional process, is that at this current moment we are still in a human incarnation, and even when we're navigating into the crystalline body, I do still see myself in a form of a human incarnation. So for me personally, that's not going anywhere for me anytime soon. So I work on how can I keep them more connected in a more harmonious and synchronicity. I don't know what the word is. In a
Yeah.
more synchronicity way, you know, like keep them more harmonious together, vibrating together, rather than one trying to spread messages from the higher self and it being such a gap, you know, like that I
Right.
feel is the problem sometimes with being human. It's not that we're human, it's that we're not in connection and harmony with the soul. And when we find
Right.
that flow with mind, body, soul, spirit, everything does become a little bit easier, even through the roller coaster storms. It's like, yeah, like you say, you know, you're good, you know, you're kind of held in this space, you know, you've got this
Yes.
kind of like backup and this support and this knowledge and these skills and this remembrance that we didn't have, well, I didn't have 10 years ago, you know. And so it's like
Yeah.
now it's that's something to lean on a little bit, you know, that
Yes.
backup.
And I interpret that as a dance. It's a really lovely dance between your soul, your human experience, your body, and
Yeah,
being connected to the universe. And that's where those pieces again. I'm going to bring that in for this month because that's what I've been experiencing for this month is
yeah,
breaking that down into I'm not doing wrong or right, and I'm trusting that I'm held in this experience no matter what. And as soon as that's the case, your body can release a lot of garbage it doesn't need anymore and really embrace what the soul is bringing into the body and also using that for a superpower. I would say there had been definitely been times where I've taught or been present with groups and working with people, and I'm very honest and vulnerable about what I have worked through in those
yeah.
spaces. And I remember a few of those groups where half of them just left. Oh, you have all that stuff. You have baggage too. Oh,
Mm, mm,
I that was for me to go because I've gone through that and used that as an empowerment piece. That is what I can bring to the space.
right. Key. That's the
Right.
key. That's your resonance. That's your experience. Like it's like asking someone who's not a mechanic to help you with a car when they've not trained with cars. Your experience is in that a healing of that journey, of that resonance. So obviously you're going to be there to be able to offer healing space for people in that experience. And I feel like that's sometimes when people are looking for their purpose and they're looking for this kind of thing to study, I'm like, well, what can you share? Like, what are you sharing every day with your
Yeah.
friends and your family? Like, well, how are you already empowering people in your through your experiences that you have gone through? And like you were saying, like taking it back to this month, it's been a wild month of it feels like already it feels like quite a long month in January. You know, it's felt like a deep period of inner reflection, but then also like time to organize and create and allocate, I think is a good word, you know. Like getting that dance is right. I think that's the great example. Learning to dance with a soul as a human, learning to dance with a human as a soul, and finding a form of harmony is kind of what I think the collective vibration is going through right now. And for some, that means purging. For some, that means emotionally purging. For some, that means reclaiming, recluttering, releasing, leaving. You know, there's a whole different way that might look like to different individuals. But in the overall, it definitely feels like a realignment and a reconnection.
Yes. Yes, definitely a dance of understanding. I can trust the soul perspective and know that I can continue to do what I'm doing. That's what it really feels like it's coming down to in this space. So there is a lot, like a lot of releasing, a lot of seeding, a lot of like creationary energy coming to the space, because that's kind of what those dances do. They bring up a lot of chaos to help us understand that we can be further in ourselves and remember ourselves, and have a dance with that. And this month it just feels like, it's an unknown piece that's running through there. We don't really know where what that's all gonna look like, and that is where the trust gets to get settled in there.
The trust, that was key. Golden nugget moment. That was
Yep.
definitely key.
Ding.
Trust is yeah, so important. I think that was I struggled with that from my humans experiences. I did not trust very easily. I did not open to trust, open to vulnerability. And I really struggled with trusting as a human that my soul has this and I don't need to be
Right.
in control all the time, because my human was trying to control my soul experiences and my lessons and like how I experience it and what I'm going to experience next, what's going to look like. And my soul's like, bitch, please now. And then I'm like, you know?
I ain't even
So,
playing that game. I don't know what you're
yeah,
doing. I've done that too.
not going to happen. You know? And I really got like,
Like, it's
correct.
really cute. Like you could go in those circles, but here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna end up in that spot.
Right. And I was like, okay. So I've been learning to let go of the reins. I mean, I still struggle sometimes, especially when it feels like wildly unfamiliar and testing and it, you know, just like throw you in the deep end. I mean, I'm okay with some things, but some things, I don't know, it depends what the trigger is in the human. And it's about going, okay, that's okay. Like sometimes I'm presented with something and my human freaks out about it. And then I'm like, oh, really? That's why I freaked out. Da, 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 da. And then I'm presented with it again. And then I get the choice again. So it's not like, oh my God, you missed your opportunity. You're never going to get this thing again. Like a lot of the time, if you need to learn the lesson or experience it, you're just going to keep getting it in different
Yeah.
forms anyways. And so reflection is important for this month.
That's another thing that's playing into this, is really come together and work together on these
Yep.
things. Uh,
100%.
and you hear us talking about soul families, and really, what that is a perspective. From my perspective, is our souls really contracting to come down with people we've experienced with before to make ourselves learn first. Is about ourselves first and our lessons, and then allow us to be able to work together. And
Yeah.
so I would like for more of you to experience what Anya and I have in that type of
Mm,
space, where we
yeah.
can come in and it's authentic. We can celebrate each other, and we can also have a lot of fun in there too.
It's just about kind of putting yourselves out there and open if you're in your authenticity to meeting people that are also doing that.
Yeah, yeah, very much
Mm.
so. And also doing that, it does bring up more things that
Mm-hmm.
it brings up more to take a look at, because we're all kind of looking at it together. And we're activating each other, and uh, I feel
Yeah,
like
definitely.
that golden
Definitely.
nugget in there is the openness. And where are
Mm,
you with your openness? And it's okay if you're not in that space right at the moment, moving in that direction. That's another keynote that I would say is coming into this month is, are we open to what can be brought to us in that space, and the actions that we can take to have greater connection or be more in ourselves or ask for support, which is another one in there, right?
Ooh, that's a big one for me. Sometimes I say things and I expect people to understand like what I mean in that code worded riddle that I just sent out there. And I'm like, why did you not just understand my riddle of asking for help? You know, like, what the hell? And Brad's like, maybe you should just communicate a little bit better. And maybe I'd helped you in the first. I was like, I have to own that one. You know, it's just like sometimes I'm still not there. I'm not gonna claim to be perfect, but I am a million times better than what I used to be on accepting help, and I've stopped being so stubbornly hyper independent for no reason. Like there is literally no reason other than it's a survival technique that I learned along the way that I just didn't get rid of, and luckily I have done now, or I am doing in deeper layers, you know.
Just to say for you guys, if that is like a process that you're running through, also know too that it's okay if somebody can't be there in that space. It's then opening yourself up to, okay, where do I need to go for myself where I can have a
Mm,
full exchange, you
mm-hmm.
know? And that might be scary right off the bat. It might be unknown. And I just encourage that little bit of going, okay, well, these guys are, you know, these
Mm-hmm.
guys are emotionally available and they're like ready to support in that way. And I'm worthy of that.
Yep.
And understanding that, and also releasing that facet of going to people who aren't really wanting that exchange. They're not really there for that
Mm-hmm.
exchange. Okay, that's an old aspect that gets to go away now. Our growing up and our environment and
Mm-hmm.
whatever we learned in those spaces with our child and coming in through these parallels that are coming in from other places now coming to get that shifted because the support that we're looking for is out there, and
Yep.
that's where we're getting kind of more guided towards so that we can
Mm-hmm.
be more in community with each other.
Yeah. 100%, because we can't be in the community with resentment, with overwhelm, with anxiety, with trauma, with us parents, with not being able to accept help. And like I said, using the pregnancy as an example
Yep.
again, like my willingness to accept help physically, like even just from random strangers, that I'm like, no, no, it's fine, you know. And then recently I've had to obviously accept that help. And so it's like just being open to that. I've actually realized there's some really nice people out there that really just genuinely just want to help you out. And like,
Yep.
I don't need to have anxiety or worry or fear about them things. And I don't need to be guarded all the time. And I think that was a lesson that came up as well. Like it's come from a lot of lower frequency energy around me in childhood, and constantly being like
Yes.
you
Yep.
know, you get my just like energetically a target throughout life. So
Yep.
it's felt like I had to keep quite guarded, you know, for most of my life, and quite protected and quite within
Yep.
myself. And having to be more open physically, like I cannot lift that dog food off that shelf, I cannot push this trolley right now, cannot carry this to the car, cannot do this. So having to go, oh hey, can you help me, or people just offering and me accepting it, and then meeting these new frequencies, and also like receiving that support just from someone that has no obligation to me. They're not my family, they're not my friend, but yet they just helped me because they wanted to be a good person, or just because they wanted to. And it's really nice to feel that level of community
Yes.
vibration.
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's a stunning feeling. It's not really something I can even describe other than it's trusting that no matter where you're at, there's support there.
Yeah, yeah,
There's support there.
definitely.
Just kind of bring this back into a space of what you guys can do coming from this and what that looks like. I mean, I would say from my perspective is break it down, take it easy on yourself, know that you're not doing anything wrong and you're already making a massive contribution to the space as it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to see all these things and be in these spaces to do that. It could be something very simple as I'm gonna I'm gonna stand here for a moment and love myself just for a second, and go into heart space just for a moment to see where that feels like. To fully feeling emotions and the roller coaster when it comes up, knowing that you're still supported. Yeah, I would say let's just break it down. Be simple with yourself. See what you need in the space, what you're open to, what you're open to allowing to come in, being receptive and finding something humorous in there. As I was saying, I got to find something funny in
Mm-hmm.
there too. And I would say, especially for this month, in my experience and where the collective's at, it's really settling in with the trusting of the process and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that in any given moment, you're safe exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
Is a big one. And
Yeah. Big one, that.
yep, really, really listening to what you're hearing coming in really strongly.
Mm-hmm.
That's like an action step, like for me to go out and be in the sun for, 15, 20 minutes, or
Mm-hmm.
you're hearing like, ask this person for support, and you're denying that with yourself, then I would sit with that for a minute, because that soul perspective really is talking in that directive space. And if that is denied, then it will continue to put that in the directive space until you
Mm-mm-mm.
get to that
100%.
right? So
Mhm.
so listen to those tiny little things like, oh, I need extra rest, or I need extra food right now, because your soul is really working with your body to try and make that remembrance happen and allow you to be in a space where you can seriously create what you want.
Yeah.
So trust that, listen to yourself, take those tiny little actions that you hear, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does around you. Be strong within yourself to take those, because every single one that you do take in that way, even though it might be uncomfortable, has got a diamond within yourself after that, and then more of that alignment comes in from taking those tiny little steps. It's a lot easier.
100%. Literally got a rock from a mountain I'd hiked at that time. And it was like shaped like, like going up. And so I painted a little mountain and a little me on it, saying, take it one step at a time. And I put it on my altar so that I can have that remembrance that we're not here to do it all in one day. That's like going and doing a whole university degree in a day. You're not going to do that. You're going to spread the modules out over the years and do the assignments and the assessments and the tests, and then you're going to get your qualification. If we want to humanize it like that, that's kind
Yes,
of what we're going through. We need to go through the modules and the learning and the
exactly.
integrations, and then the little mini tests that we have to kind of prepare ourselves for the bigger test that we have, that then gives us the certificate of the integration
Right.
and the release. And so, allow yourself the time, the patience, the openness, and the trust. I think they're the two things we can kind of leave today's theme on. Today has
Yeah.
been a little bit wishy-washy everywhere, but I think that's what happens when we're kind of
Well,
introducing and
yep.
connecting in. It just happens, but I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. Thank you so much, guys. Again, this is interactive. We want your questions in here. We'd like to see what topics you'd like to be brought up, and
Mm-hmm.
where you guys are at. So we
Yeah,
really appreciate you, and I'm really excited for this. I really am.
amazing.
So thank
Me
you.
too. Thank you, guys. Lots of love.